Alright, so we're going to watch this video about this YouTuber who apparently joined a cult to get views, which I think is probably pretty ridiculous. Like, you joined a cult for views? You sad, lonely fool. Let's see what this is. Oops. I'm not trying to smack you on the desk. You're just getting smacked.
For the past few months, there has been an outpouring amount of concern for a YouTuber named Alex Weiss, also known as A-Dubs. Alex has accumulated nearly 2 million subscribers, and she's best known for her popular series turned podcast called Revealing Your Secrets. These videos were getting millions of views. It was such a good series, so it was no surprise when Alex decided to follow the path
that'll
that
do
a
it.
lot of YouTubers take by turning to podcasting. A new episode would come out every single week, and she really had a dedicated audience that made these episodes a part of their weekly routine. That would all change.
That works out well for someone.
Alex would post her last episode before seemingly disappearing under really concerning circumstances involving a cult. So let's get into it.
I'm doing pretty well. I'm going to start a podcast. Oh, you guys are interested in my podcast? Isn't that nice? I enjoy the fact that you're so excited about my podcast. Now, I'm going to join a cult. Come along.
Back in December,
Alex
posted a podcast episode with guests Carly and Aaron. And
they offered me Kool-Aid.
Seemed to be normal. That's until Alex brought up something a little bit concerning regarding escaping a cult. She told Carly and Aaron that she went on this website called Meetup, and she was searching for a group meditation meeting. When she found one and got to this place, it was in the middle of nowhere. She had no phone service, and immediately she felt something was off.
Okay, so aside from feeling that something is off, if you're trying to get into a meditation group, and they are placed out in the middle of nowhere, that's not alarming and it's not strange. If you're placed somewhere where you can't get phone service, that's not alarming and it's not strange. The fact is, if you're trying to get into a meditation group or a yoga group, because yoga is a form of meditation, you may actually be more prone to finding those types of situations where they're going to be placed in those areas, strictly because of the fact that you are removing yourself from modern distraction. It's part of why they do it is to help hit a reset in your mind and make everything kind of balance out a little bit better and make it easier for you to actually practice the meditation and the yoga and to get the full benefit of it. Because if you're getting dragged back into like social media, you're going to be distracted and you're going to be pulled away from the entire effort of the group over the weekend or the week or whatever the getaway time period is.
There weren't any lights. There was barely anyone there. I keep driving and driving.
This is at night?
Place. Yeah, this was at night last night. It was like 8 p.m.
Oh my god.
And
Yeah, see, but then this is like a night? That's strange. These types of things are typically like a retreat. You're going out there with a group of people that are all going, and you're going for like a weekend or a week or 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. Like people pay for a different period of time to go out on the retreat, but the retreats last anywhere from like a weekend to the longest I've seen is like a 3-month retreat.
Finally come up to this building that has lights.
I've never done one.
Okay, this is probably the place I need to be. But I noticed that there's only one car parked there, which is also kind of sus. There's like no one here. As I get further to the building with lights, I notice that there's a building behind it with more lights, and it's like a proper church. And I get jump scared by this woman who's standing like 20 feet away from me, didn't say a word, she just went like this. So I went like
what?
With her, I motioned like, oh, 1 second, like I'm just gonna go get something for my car, and then I sprinted to my car. And
Whoa.
I left. And I'm really proud
Yeah, that
of
was
myself
weird.
because there's a version of myself that would have been like
Before she went to this place and
there's a version of myself that would have been like, yeah, going in.
Signed up for a few more events with them. So one of the organizers reached out and invited her to a potluck. And despite having this horrible feeling the first time around, she said she was actually considering going.
So
she was gonna go to the potluck? Did somebody promise to bring some Kool-Aid? Please.
Yesterday I was listening to We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle, and Sarah Edmondson, who escaped the NXIVM cult,
Oh my god.
was on the podcast, and she made a joke.
Okay.
She made a joke.
So, she just kind of skipped over what she just said. NXIVM was the Hollywood sex cult that was trafficking people that, hold on, we'll look it up real quick because I don't remember her name. What was the name of the show? Smallville. So, it is not her. Don't get that fucked up. It's this actress here. Allison Mack. So, Allison Mack ended up in NXIVM, and she started trying to drag in the girl that I said it wasn't her. She's the one who plays not Lois Lane, but Lois Lane's cousin, and she started trying to get Allison Mack tried getting her into NXIVM, and she did not follow along, and Allison Mack ended up in a lot of trouble and arrested and stuff because of the whole NXIVM thing. But it was a whole Hollywood sex cult that was trafficking people and all kinds of creepy, weird shit. And the dude tattooed his name, or was it he might have branded. It might have been branding his like emblem or whatever for NXIVM, or his name or whatever it was, onto people. Disgusting. Anyways.
Who escaped the NXIVM cult was on the podcast, and she made a joke. She said, if anyone ever like love bombs you, they're being really nice, and then they invite you to their potluck. She said potluck. It's
verbatim.
A cult. Yeah, it's a cult. Oh, I was actually thinking of going to the potluck.
No.
I was told that if they tell you, hey, come to the potluck, that it's a cult. But, I was going to go anyway. What?
If you do, bring a GoPro.
Yeah, you
I'm
gotta
interested.
get
a hidden camera, document the whole experience, and then if you don't make it out, at least we'll have the footage.
Or,
how would you get the footage?
I really will be going. I'm going to the potluck.
You're going. Are you going to bring a friend? You should
security. Bring a friend.
Hire someone on Meetup. Hire a security guard. I'd go with you, but I know that I would get fully brainwashed.
Oh yeah, I'm a little nervous
you guys
about
are right
that too.
The episode went on like normal. It ended like it usually ends, but that was the last anyone heard from Alex for months.
Oh no.
She was posting weekly episodes, but all of a sudden, she went completely dark across all her social media accounts. Obviously, her fans were
that's not good.
Really concerned for her, especially since she left by talking about going to a potluck for what she felt like was a cult. The comments under this video are filled with people expressing concern, writing, "It's been a month since the last episode. Alex, I'm starting to get concerned you actually joined the cult after the potluck." So, it's been 6 weeks.
I'm concerned you joined the cult after the potluck. Did you go? Are you one of them? One of us!
Can someone in the production say something? Is Alex having a break? Is she okay? I know we're not obligated to know anything, but we're a lot of people that care about her and would love to know what's going on, or just, is she okay? And we're not talking about missing for maybe like a week or two. It was going on multiple months.
Yeah, 6 weeks is almost 2 months.
Really started to talk about her disappearance.
It's like a month and a half.
For answers. Someone on TikTok posted all the way back in like January or February, being like, guys, this YouTuber is missing, after literally claiming to be meeting up with a cult.
There's this YouTuber and podcaster I've been listening to that said they were going to go meet up with a cult and then dropped off the face of the earth, and nobody's talking about it, and they're super popular. So it's Alex Weiss. This is the podcast I've been listening to, and I only noticed because I went to go listen to the newest episode because it had been a while, and there was no new uploads. This is the last episode she posted. It was December 16th, and this is where she mentions like going and meeting up with like a cult for lunch or something like that. So then I took to her Instagram.
The potluck.
And no new...
She's talking about the potluck episode. I do not like him. It's not funny.
But if you look in the comments, everybody seems, people are worried. I'm worried. Like, I'm just like, this is just kind of odd. Like, don't you think this is kind of odd?
And this was the video that really got people talking and looking into things. It now has over 1.5 million views, and people were coming up with all different kinds of theories. Some people thought maybe it was just a publicity stunt for views. Some people thought maybe she was just taking a break. Maybe there were legal issues going on with one of her ex-podcast hosts. Or maybe she really did meet up with this cult and wasn't okay. Sure.
Or, hear me out, maybe she went to the potluck and then she realized she could become a monk. And she's now on a trip across Southeast Asia, going from monastery to monastery, becoming a monk. Or she's become a cult people.
Surely, if she was okay, she would see her fans were extremely concerned, and she would at least quickly issue some kind of statement. It wasn't until 5 months...
Or the fact is that you view and consume her content, and you feel like you care about her in this weird parasocial way, but the reality of the situation is, you don't know her. She's not your friend. You're not dating her. She has no idea who you are. But you feel entitled to having this insight and relationship.
Months later, that Alex finally returned and talked about where she was.
And that's part of the issue people have with this type of stuff.
Revealing my secret, talking about the cult. And even though fans were happy to see that she was posting and seemed to be okay, concerns only grew once they actually clicked the video and heard her explanation for what happened.
Well, yeah. Let's listen to the way she phrased this again, okay?
My secret, talking...
Revealing my secret.
About the cult.
So now all of a sudden it's her secret, right? It's not just something else. It's her secret. And see, here's the thing, like I'm not trying to criticize people for caring. It's just that people do need to understand, like you have this parasocial relationship. It does not mean that they know who you are. It does not mean that they have a relationship with you because you feel like you have this relationship with them. Like, it's crazy to me how often this type of thing seems to happen, where people who can comment on videos seem to think that they are part of the team and part of the crew, or personally invested in this person's life, like they have some sort of stock in it. And it's weird and creepy in a culty kind of way all of its own, and nobody takes any kind of notice of that aspect either. So keep that in mind.
And even though fans were happy to see that she was posting and seemed to be okay, concerns only grew once they actually clicked the video and heard her explanation for what happened.
Yeah, you went to a cult program
where she talked about this cult potluck, fully knowing that was going to be her last podcast episode. Apparently there were some major issues going on with the production company that bought her series and turned it into a podcast. They weren't paying her what...
And this is why, if you have a YouTube channel that does well and you want to start a podcast, you should just do the podcast and not pay a production company to own your podcast. Like, it makes no sense. You've already done the work. You've already got the fan base. You've already got the viewership. What are they offering you?
What she was owed, and there were whispers about her show being cut. She thought if she ended the podcast off with this whole cult story, it would make people wonder where she was, and claimed it to just be a bit.
So I told that story on the podcast. I escaped a cult yesterday. A cult? A cult. But I also told it fully intentionally, knowing it would be my last episode, and I didn't know when I would post next, and that would sort of like plant a seed for people to wonder where I was. Yeah. It was a bit. It's funny. Fair enough. I didn't like...
Okay, that's not a bit. It's not funny. Because you knew that people were going to have this weird parasocial relationship with you and be concerned, and that was why you did it. You baited them emotionally to have this response. Now, the thing is, are you lying about this? And did you actually join the cult, and were they like, hey, we know you make YouTube. We know that you're doing pretty well. We saw what you said, but we need you to kind of drop off the radar if you want to be part of the cult. You got to drop off the radar for a bit, and then you're going to have to come back and disavow what you've said, because nobody's really supposed to know about us. Because they're a fucking cult, right? So, come on.
Maliciously want people to be concerned with my well-being. I just wanted, like, a little cult play. I dropped that story in that
Who wants cult play? I've never heard anybody say that ever.
People were gonna worry.
So her podcast is canceled, and she has this revelation that she has issues with working. She realized that she never made time for herself. She's always put YouTube and her podcast above self-care. So she saw this period as a great time to go away to Peru and work with plants. The way Alex was describing her time at this retreat still had people feeling like something a bit cultish was going on. To start off, she was doing this video with someone that she met on this retreat, which had people feeling a bit uncomfortable,
like I said, right? Am I right? Oh, well, I went to Peru and worked with plants. Oh, really? You went to Peru and worked with plants? Why'd you go to Peru and work with plants instead of, I don't know, college? Like, there's college courses. There's literal, like, degrees in plants that you can get. There's, if you don't want to do that, like, the botanical gardens, I know in Denver. I don't know about other places because I've never looked into it. But I do know that in Denver at the botanical gardens, they offer an entire course that you can take over like a spring and summer, I think, that you learn about all kinds of different plants that they have in their greenhouses, how to take care of those types of plants, how to identify the issues that you have with plants, how to just basically how to develop a green thumb.
They were watching some kind of promotion video for this center. She talked about how this retreat recommended that she stays at least a month. They were made to fast and eat really small meals with no fat, no salt, and said they would be lucky if they were offered chicken one night. She said she now feels disconnected from people in her life because they don't understand.
Okay, the way that they emphasized that diet, like, oh my god, no fat, no salt, oh my god, that's terrible. There was like the tone of that. The fact is, you're going out and they're offering you basically no sodium, low fat, no, like a vegetarian diet program while you're there, right? Now here's the thing, if you're out on a retreat, they will tell you what the diet is going to be. Now, once again, meditation and stuff, a lot of that gets tied into Buddhism. So you're not just out on a meditation retreat, you're at a Buddhist retreat. And a lot of different portions of Buddhism are vegan. So they're going to have you on that vegan diet. You're going to live a lifestyle that is similar to monks. Like I joked about earlier, her going to Asia and doing this. Well, now she's in Peru. The thing is, if they're actually trying to do this like a Buddhist meditation retreat, you're going to be on that Buddhist diet. And if that means that you're not eating meat, guess what? You're not eating meat. They're not giving it to you.
And what she went through, and even admitted that this...
Like, and I'm not saying that to take away from the fact that this is culty, because this is culty. I'm just saying this is like a don't... If you're going to be involved in going to one of these retreats, don't expect to be able to maintain the diet that you're used to having of overabundance and just access to whatever you want. Like, you can't just eat sirloin steaks every day. That's a very small portion of the entire cow. Like these, if you go to one where you're eating meat, you're eating the whole animal. You're not just eating the portion you want either, right? So, like chicken breast. Okay, well, it's got thighs, neck, wings, feet. You're going to have to eat all of this. It's not, they don't eat just portions. They eat the whole thing because that's how it's done. So if you want to go and actually be in one of these meditation or Buddhist retreats, just be aware that you do need to look at the diet plan and the meal plan that they have, because they do advertise, like the legit ones will advertise to you what the meal plan is going to look like, how many meals you're going to have a day, protein, that type of stuff. It's all included in their plan for you.
Connected from people in her life because they don't understand what she went through, and even admitted that this whole thing sounds like a cult.
People, like, there's people in my life where
it
they
does.
Connect because there's no way to understand what went on there and how it changed us. And
that's because you're cult people.
A cult recruit. I was just about to say, there's almost a prerequisite because we're so passionate about what it's done for us in our lives and the way that we want to effectively...
Why did they alter their voices?
...communicate how much to the core it's done. It does somewhat come off as, like, yeah, a recruitment video. It's because once you found something that has changed your life so fundamentally and, like, actively has made your life go from something that's a struggle to be alive to life as a gift and you're grateful and stuff like that, of course you want the people that you don't even know to find that answer as well. And if that's a cult, then so be it, yeah.
She claimed this plant was healing all
Some of that stuff is a cult.
that were incurable or so expensive to fix or Western medicine couldn't fix, like holes in your stomach or Crohn's. She said that she spent some time in isolation.
Let's hope that
So, to an extent, that's not an inaccurate statement. There are certain types of cures to things that you do not have access to in America, for instance. Look at stem cells. Stem cells in America were illegal for a long time, and now they're available on a very limited use at very specific facilities. Whereas if you go to Colombia, you go to Panama, you go to Mexico, you can actually get full-on treatment done by stem cells or with stem cells to take care of issues like meniscus repair in your knee, which we can't do anything about. They shave your knee, they put a piece of plastic in your knee. That's how they solve it here in America. But in these places where you can go and get these stem cell treatments, professional athletes have been doing this for a while now, and they're seeing great success. Like, they're seeing great success with getting these treatments, and it's actually leading them to a recovery of being capable of athletics again, whereas the other surgeries don't offer that. Getting a knee replacement, you lose some of the ability with your knee, what you're able to do with it, to a certain extent. The people going through this treatment with stem cells that you cannot get in the U.S., they're doing fine. Like, there is medicine in other parts of the world that does work that you can't get here. It's not because it's expensive. It's not because of not being available. It's the fact that things like the FDA don't want it. It's the fact that you have pharmaceutical companies lobbying against these things being allowed. And then you have the politicization of these things. Like, the reason you don't have stem cells as accessible in the United States is because of the fact that stem cells were argued here as requiring you to kill babies, which isn't the case at all. A lot of it is taken out of the umbilical cord and out of the whatever it's called, I forgot, the like sac that breaks, that comes out with the baby. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't have children. But they use, typically what they're using is those things, and you're not having to have an abortion or anything else. You're actually just getting these stem cells from the byproducts of birth. No harm to the child, no harm to the baby, no damage to a fetus. None of these things are happening.
Stomach or Crohn's. She said that she spent some time in isolation, and when she showed this isolation room, it shows that there's actually a lock on the outside of the door. Not the inside. The outside to lock someone in. She talked about how the guys
to make sure you're isolated
on their foreheads and throw up for them.
The sucking out of the head.
That's disgusting.
Throwing up for you. She just sucks, like puts her mouth here, sucks in here, and then immediately throws up. And then I get up and I feel different.
You
would feel different because that's fucking weird.
Talked about how hard it was to do the work there and how they suffered to get a breakthrough.
And they were so
this is driving me fucking insane. The fact that they made them sound like chipmunks for these segments where they're actually talking makes me feel like the person that made the video is unreliable. The way that I interpret doing this is discrediting the person who made the video this way. Like, you're trying to present this as this person joined a cult so that they could get views possibly. And while they're talking about something that does sound very culty, you're making me feel like you're the one who's wrong and they're the ones who are right because you're giving them these chipmunk voices, which just seems like some sort of bullshit way of trying to discredit somebody.
Suffering. Scary. Disorientated. Confused. Overwhelmed. Like sick. In pain. Yeah. Puking. Yeah. I don't say this to deter.
Oh, come on, Alvin. You ready? Jesus.
Real hard work. But what we got from it, I would do it 1,000,000 times again.
Alex said when she came home, she felt like she was living in a home that doesn't belong to her anymore. She claimed that she lost friends and feels disconnected from her previous life, and said she's over proving to her family that this stuff is real and worked for her. She said she first heard about...
And it very well could have worked for her in a very beneficial way, right? It could be a psychosomatic type of thing, like a placebo effect type of deal where this person's sucking on her head and puking, and she's actually in her mind is going, oh, she just sucked out all these things that have been plaguing my mind and preventing me from doing better with my life in these areas, and that causes her to have the correct response mentally to actually overcome that, so she sees the result she's looking for from this thing that's nonsense. It's very possible that that's the case.
The cult rumors during the retreat, but she was kind of in her own world and wasn't in the mindset to look into them or address anything. And it wasn't until she got back home to LA that things started to really blow up. Her parents and her friends were worried, media was reaching out to her, but she said she couldn't be bothered to get on social media and let people know she was fine.
Why I didn't just get on Instagram and say, hey, I'm fine, I'm not in a cult, is because I think I needed to prove to myself that I was going to put myself before other people and before work. And what I truly needed, like, I couldn't, as you say, I can't be bothered.
See, now, once again, you made the chipmunk voices here, and it makes it feel like you're trying to discredit what they're saying, because what she's saying here makes sense. If you just went on a retreat where you don't get to have, like, cell service, so you're not on social media. You've actually removed yourself from social media. You've actually gone through an entire shift in your own mind, which is your entire existence with the world, where you don't need that anymore. Maybe she is one of the people who sought validation from people liking photos and commenting on her posts and of all these other little things, right? Sharing her content and all this stuff. She might have sought validation from that and then found a way to have validation outside of it and wanted to make sure that she was able to maintain that when she had access to the internet by resisting getting into it again, which is what that sounds like. But once again, you've placed these chipmunk voices over it, which makes it seem like you're trying to discredit anything she's saying, even though it's a valid point to have.
I couldn't be bothered to get on Instagram and make an announcement. For me, it wasn't what felt right to get online. I didn't have anything to say yet.
Alex revealed that she'll no longer be making weekly videos. Instead,
and not only that,
posting whenever it feels right, and even
okay, that's fine. But see, here's the other thing is, here, we'll go back here so that
what felt right to get online. I didn't have anything to say yet.
Alex.
See, and that's perfectly fine, because people are assuming, oh, well, she knows all these people are worried about her because we keep asking on her YouTube channel, on her social media, that she hasn't been on. So she doesn't see your comments. She doesn't see your DMs. She doesn't see what you're saying online. She's in Peru. She's not got access to her phone because it doesn't have a signal. So she's not getting phone calls from her family that are asking and saying, hey, the media is questioning because there's all this uproar on social media. She doesn't know, and then she comes home and she's overwhelmed by people trying to figure all this shit out from her, and it doesn't want to deal with it. Because why would you want to deal with all that drama when you just went and took care of your own mental state and mental being? It wouldn't make sense to do, because you're throwing yourself from this place of recovery and doing better into a fire and of just the bullshit that created the situation to begin with. It makes sense to have that perspective. Even if she went and did a cult thing, it would still make sense to have that perspective. It doesn't matter what she was doing. It's the fact that she was removed from social media. completely removed from it because, as she said, no signal, right? So she's completely removed from these things, and then doesn't have any interaction with it, and then all of a sudden everybody is trying to press her for answers on these topics, and she's found a way that she feels better about herself without those things being so prevalent, and she feels like she's being pulled into it again. Why would you want to get pulled into a thing that made you feel like you were in like a toxic existence with yourself if you just got away from it and you recognize what that was? She could have joined the cult, come back, and been like, damn, that was a cult, but I took away these beneficial things from it. You can always take good things from a bad experience or from a bad group, depending on your interaction with it. And I think that's what's taking place here, regardless of if she recognizes the negatives of a cult at the moment.
Revealed that she'll no longer be making weekly videos. Instead, she's going to be posting whenever it feels right, and even revealed that she's going to be doing a docu-series on the whole retreat and her experience there.
A little healing.
Okay.
Crohn's disease. Holes in their body. Yeah, hernias. Finding forgiveness for things that are unforgivable. Unforgivable things. Speaking with such compassion and peace after and during things that were I've never even brushed up against in my life, and seeing again how much their lives were changed. What?
So that whole portion right there, the forgiveness, the compassion, and that entire portion, that is something that you intrinsically are going to feel better about your life if you are surrounded by. You don't have to join a cult to get that. You just have to be surrounded by the right people to get that. The thing is, here in America, people have moved further and further away from having those kinds of social groups and organizations, and we've been pulled into hating each other, fighting each other, arguing with each other. The algorithms on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere else want to push disagreement, discourse, and argument because you're more likely to engage with it. They want to push division, mistrust, and betrayal. So the way that society has evolved because of money's place in these things has pushed people away from forgiveness, compassion, and love, which are three things that human beings intrinsically benefit from emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
What happened was I then came to Los Angeles and I shifted all of my attachment to other things that I'd let go of onto making sure this project was going to happen. I got here and I was like, I took like 10 classes and I was like learning Spanish, and I'm still learning Spanish. Also, if you're in the entertainment industry and this is of interest to you and you're a videographer or a production company, whatever it may be, if you're tingling, send me an email. My intention is to put together the right team of people to make this happen.
And as I'm sure you guys probably guessed, the response to this video was pure.
A man was critically injured following a...
It would make sense that you want the right kind of people, especially when you're receptive to the cult, because you're going to want people who are not going to bash and be negative toward the cult. You're going to want people who highlight it in a good way, because what you're going to do is going to essentially advertise the cult, right? So, as somebody who seems to have bought into the cult, you're going to be doing something with your content and your platform to help promote the cult and get people interested in the cult, have them find the cult, etc., and follow in your footsteps, so to speak. So, I get it. I understand what's going on. I just think it's there's positive and real things being said as well, and they're being brushed aside by this fucking chipmunk voiceover.
Concern. More than ever before, did people now think that Alex was definitely in a cult? We had people writing, also, saying that she came back and felt disconnected from friends is a big red flag. One of the first things cults do is separate you from your friends and family.
That's true. However, if you go through something where you physically, like you mentally change a lot, you will be disconnected from your friends and family because they expect you to be the person you were and you have grown as well. This is part of the problem that veterans deal with. You join the military, it's 18, 25, whatever. You join the military, you go off to basic training, you go learn how to do your job, you go through all these exercises, you build these relationships with these people in the military, and you're there for 2 to 30 years with these people, and every once in a while you come home for the holidays or whatever it is. And then your friends, meanwhile, your family, meanwhile, they're all growing and evolving and changing as people. So are you. But because of when you left and how infrequently they see you, they expect you to still be the same person that they knew you to be. Or to have grown the same way they did, because they haven't been on your path and they haven't been part of that path in the same way. So they end up being separate and separated from you. It's really that simple.
Literally a cult recruitment video. Oh my god, this is so scary.
This one's not a cult recruitment video. The other thing would be.
After this update than we were the past few months.
That's absurd, because people didn't even know if she was alive or if she joined a cult that had her die, right? They didn't know if she was even safe, and now you know she's alive, she's healthy, she's fine. She's just part of, like, a culty group. Like, it is what it is. Not all cults are negative either. That's just the interpretation of them, because we always hear about the cults that are death cults or suicide cults or things of that nature, because that's what the media gets a lot of attention from. But you can join a cult, quote-unquote cult, that's actually very beneficial as well.
So
they don't have to be negative.
Didn't put anyone's mind at ease. People were either upset with Alex for trying to make her fans worry in the first place, not posting any updates when she knew people were actually worrying, and then posting a video which felt like a recruitment video for her young audience. It's safe to say, this video left us with way more questions than answers, so Alex actually decided to go on H3 and let Ethan interview her. Alex started off by saying since she's done trolling videos in the past, she thought it would be a funny bit to end off her podcast kinda on a cult cliffhanger. She didn't think her fans would actually worry about her, and she also didn't know that she would be gone for as long as she was gone for. Alex,
I bet that's true. So see, that's the point, is I bet she was gone much longer than she expected to be gone for, because she ended up seeing connection with the cult. The cult saw connection with her. They looked into who she is, and they realized a way to promote themselves and to gain visibility off of her in a way that would be positive. It is what it is. And if you want an example of a cult that's not negative, Mormons. This was a cult back in the day. It is now a legitimate religion. And congratulations. If you go meet some Mormons, you may disagree with their religious views. Whatever, that's fine. They're free to believe whatever religious views they want, same as you. The thing is, they are some of the nicest people and some of the most socially strong and capable people within their circle that I've ever met. Second example, Scientology. Scientology is all written by a guy who wrote science fiction. And then all of a sudden you think he just wrote some Bible book? Come on now. Obviously a cult. The thing is, there's a lot of shady things that go on around this cult. However, at the same time, it's now a legitimate religion. It is also very, very true that if you are trying to get into acting and you're in that circle, you're in that realm, people that are in Scientology seem to do very well within this sphere that is very difficult to actually succeed in. Music, same thing, right? Scientology has people in these industries out of California that are very difficult to be successful in, that are doing well. Now, does that mean that it's beneficial to the world? No, but it is beneficial to the individuals. So, that's the point that I was making with cults don't have to be negative. And that's just 2 examples. There's plenty of examples that exist. The fact is, most cults you hear about negative, because it's just easier to digest. It gets more clicks, it gets more interactions, it gets more likes, it gets more views, it gets everything that makes money.
Through a few months before the podcast ended to go to the center and try plant medicine. So she knew when the podcast was done, she was going to go out there again and do the full experience retreat this time. She admitted that she does regret leaving her viewers in the dark, but the longer she didn't address it or say anything, the harder and harder it became for her to come online and let people know she was okay. Now this is where things get a little bit weird. Ethan pointed out to her how her room in the footage that she showed had a lock on the outside of the door and how strange that was. Right away, Alex got really
It would seem strange.
And claimed that she didn't think it was on the outside and she never remembers using that lock and said they were never physically locked in the room.
Anybody. I spent 12
The lock's on the outside. That's like that's how you keep a prisoner. Right?
That's how you keep a prisoner, but that lock isn't stopping anyone. Like, that lock really isn't going to stop anybody. Those locks, while they keep the door shut and they make it harder to come through, it's not stopping anybody. That lock is absolute garbage. The fact is, it's there to stop you from getting out if you're supposed to be in isolation, so that you can't go and interact with other people when you're supposed to be focusing on yourself, right? Which they shouldn't have it. It shouldn't be necessary at all in any way, shape, or form. It is a good question to have. I'm just pointing out that lock is complete shit.
It's never locked. I don't think that lock was actually on the outside. I mean,
No, it is. Watch.
I remember
watch.
it.
Here, let's watch slowly. So you walk.
Yeah, not talking.
So here's the door, front of the door. You go in. You shut. There's the lock. You can see the lock. You push it.
It's
and then
funny.
You go into the room right here. See, there's the lock.
12 days.
And then you're in the room.
Yeah. I see it, but I don't like. I was never locked in that room.
RBC Cribs. I love living on campus because everything is so close together.
So here's something else I'm going to point out, is that lock being on the outside may actually exist, because if you look at these buildings look like they could have been something else that has been repurposed into what they're using it for now, right? So maybe this was a storage unit and they had a lock on the outside to keep animals from getting in, to keep like the door from opening up easier, to getting into it, to getting into the supplies, or keeping their supplies more locked away, whatever it was. That is also a very real possibility, and we simply don't know because we don't know shit about this property at all. It could have been designed that way for people inside a room. It could have been designed that way to help keep like a storage locked up easier from the outside, which is the same way you would lock your storage.
I don't even. I see it, but I don't like. I was never locked in that room. I don't even remember like using that lock specifically.
Was there a lock on the inside?
I thought that's what that lock was. I just never used it, so I don't know. Like seeing this for the first time, I'm like, what is going on? I was never locked in that room.
She also talked about how literally everyone around her was puking and non-stop from taking what they were taking. They deeper into the non-stop from taking what they were taking.
See, so they're in Peru. Okay, this is important, because what you need to understand is if you go to South America, where Peru is, you have things like ayahuasca. And the reason this is important is because ayahuasca will make you puke. Okay? They have hallucinogens down there that people take all the time, medicines that people take all the time, things that they use for like shamanistic rituals and stuff that make you puke. So it's very possible that what they were doing is that lock on the outside might actually be for if they're doing ayahuasca down there, and she doesn't want to say that they do ayahuasca at this retreat, which is, I don't know anything about her, but she may think that it'll damage her image to bring up being on ayahuasca. So, or any kind of hallucinogen that's down there, because they're not allowed within the United States at all. And they're considered extremely strong and like very, very much so illegal here. So, the point is, she may not want to bring up the fact that that's part of what they're doing, and that lock may actually be on the outside, so that if you are having a difficult time, someone who can guide you, like if you're doing this correctly, a shaman would be there guiding you and helping you through this, and they may have somebody who's guiding you through this who gets in there with you to help you, but you keep trying to escape, and they don't want you running around the jungle hallucinating so you don't die. Okay? That could very well be part of it as well, but like I said, there's just a lot that we don't know.
They also dug a little bit deeper into the claims that Alex made about the retreat curing holes in someone's body. It sounds like someone that she knew had a hernia before they went in. They didn't want to get the surgery, and Alex says whatever they took on this retreat cured it. Ethan wanted a little bit more proof that this actually happened, and she showed him 2 before and after images, one showing what looked like to be a tear or a hole, and the other which doesn't. But people in the comments who are saying that they work in the medical field were very quick to debunk this claim. One person wrote, "I'm a radiologist, and the 2 images they show are different imaging modalities. One is a coronal reformatted image of a CT scan showing what appears to be a midline abdominal scar. The second image is an ultrasound showing the same thing, what appears to be just a scar. Again, only one image is misleading, and they are completely different imaging techniques."
It's true.
Alex then went on to reveal that she's
So if they were the same imaging techniques, they would be at the same angle, and when you look at those, they're very different angles as well. That's why when you do a CT scan, that's why it does the whole around you type of thing, right, in that semicircle that it goes around, or maybe it does a whole circle around you because you're kind of in the middle of it. I don't know, because I'm not a radiologist. It's why when you do an x-ray, they take an x-ray this way, this way, this way, that way, from the back, from the front, and it's with your knee up, with your knee down, with your body positioned like this or that. They're same with the MRIs. You'd have the same, you'd be able to have the same exact angle, regardless of how far apart they took it, from roughly the same distance, with almost the exact same imagery. You would be able to look at almost the exact same imagery, and you could circle here and very clearly see that it is the same thing, and those were very different images, and it was very obvious.
Actually lost 2 friends when she came home from her retreat. She said these friends wanted her to address what was going on since her fans were worried and were like, "I'm gonna speak up and say something if you don't." And Alex said it became a messy situation and they just fell out. She also announced that.
So would you want to be friends with somebody who is trying to force you to do something that you were saying like you weren't interested in doing at the moment? Would you be interested in remaining friends with those people? No. Like, these people have her best interest at heart and in mind. The thing is, that's not her perspective of it. Her perspective of it is, you are trying to force me to do something that I currently do not want to do or be involved in. I will do it when I'm ready. I don't want to be on the internet right now. So, would you want to be friends with people who are trying to force you into that kind of a thing that you're trying to avoid at the moment? Or would you be like, I guess I'm not your friend now? I'm betting most people would be the latter.
That she's going back to Peru in a few days and starting to film her documentary. Ethan ended up saying it sounds like what she's describing isn't a cult like everyone thought it was, and while that might be true, her retreat still isn't sitting right with a lot of people. During her interview with H3, Alex mentioned that these retreat centers for plant medicine is a huge business in Peru with hundreds of different places that people could choose from. Well, some people in the comments are saying that's the real problem here. One person wrote, "Hi, Ecuadorian here. I feel torn about this. It's hard to look at people from first world countries and not think their newfound interest for our ancient indigenous cultures and knowledge is a fetish. I feel like you can find medicinal, ancestral..."
So this Ecuadorian's going to go off on some sort of cultural appropriation because you're fetishizing our ancestral knowledge. Like, the ancestral knowledge from your area is different than the ancestral knowledge from another area because you had different plants accessible. it's not going to be the same at all. Like, chill on that. That's already just irritating.
Healing knowledge locally without having to travel to a third world country. Ayahuasca is a sacred plant, and not just anybody is supposed to be able to take it.
That's ridiculous. See, this is what I was talking about. See, he brought up ayahuasca. So here's the thing. Not just anybody is supposed to be able to take it. Why not? You aren't living in the fucking 1400s anymore. It's I don't know when she went down there, but it's been fucking like 20, what is it? It's 20 something, and you're worried about the 1400s. It's been 600 years. Move the fuck on. Move the fuck on. This shit is ridiculous.
It's reserved only for shamans. So, is it a cult?
Also, it's not just for shamans either, by the way. Indigenous people in the regions did it as well. Once again, this is why they have shaman guides. Is because the shamans guide you through the journey.
In theory, it shouldn't be. There are people genuinely concerned about teaching and caring for others. However, there is ayahuasca tourism where people's concerns is just taking your money and making people look stupid.
Well, yeah, there's definitely going to be that.
Was showing people indigenous traditions, and the weight is huge. The fact that no one called out how colonial wellness tourism is one of the most problematic exploitations by Westerners throughout the global South is disappointing to me. I mean, there's hundreds of these centers there for a reason. It's a major industry, almost always run by white people from other countries who have the capital to buy up a ton of natural land, sway legislation, displace natives, then employ them for very little money. Concede that what she's doing is pretty controversial from all angles. There's the fact that she knowingly left for 5 months, leaving people to believe that she joined an actual cult.
According to her, yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
Making claims about medical stuff and what can heal what illness. People still believing that she's deep into maybe not a cult, but being taken advantage of because she's seeking help for something. And then there's the fact that these retreat centers aren't always in it for the right reasons.
They aren't. And if she's going to one that has a shit ton of locations like that, she's probably in one that is strictly there for the money, which you don't have to do it that way. There are a lot of ways to do it. Once again, they're all complaining because of a small amount of these things that go on, whereas, like, if you look at it, it's a whole lot of these locations are run this way because it's a lot of locations. If you look at it by numbers, like this one has 300 locations. Okay, so there's 300 or one because it's run by one company, one organization. And then in the same country, they have 500 other places that do the same thing, but they're all individually ran. Guess what? 500's bigger than 300, and you have more of these that are being done locally and indigenously and without this whole monetary scheme behind it. But this draws attention to its existence, and people find the other ones as well. It's just a matter of convenience. People will go to these ones because it's convenient and easy to find. People will go to the other ones because they understand that they need to have an actual shaman, someone who knows what the fuck they're doing, dedicated to them while they're doing this. And that's where they go for it. That's why I get so fucking tilted about the dumbass comments about the whole industry, because you're criticizing the fact that this brings in money and people who go directly to the source and pay the same amount of money to the tribes that they would to this company. Congratulations, you're stupid again.
The whole situation is such a mess, and I think a lot of her viewers are just upset to see someone they loved watching get into something that might not be the best situation for them. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about everything.
Okay, so I don't think that people's issue is that she's involved in something that might not be the best situation for her. I think what it is the fact that she got involved in something that she sold as a cult that seems culty because she planted that seed. that people are making videos like this where they make her voice and the voice of people who she's talking to chipmunk voices, which is discrediting. And then you also have the fact that people build these parasocial relationships, people they watch on the internet. And so they see her becoming somebody else that they don't relate to the same way that they did. So they feel like they've been betrayed. That's why they're upset. Has nothing to do with her well-being. Everything to do with their own weird parasocial relationship. I'm not going to like this video because I really dislike the way that they decided to chipmunk the voices. It's misleading and it's done intentionally.